Greetings, beautiful earthlings. My name is Star. If you are new here, I don't know how you found me, but I am super glad you did. And if you are returning, y'all, the real MVP, you already know. So if you guys have been lurking on my channel for a while, why don't you go ahead and hit that little subscribe button down there, as well as the post notification bell, so that you can stick around with me and get notified every time I upload. Another way to keep up with my content uploads is going to be through my socials. All that information is always in the description box for you guys, as always. But let's go ahead and get into today's video, friends. This is something I am super excited to talk about. I've been wanting to do a lot more beginner tarot videos on my channel, teaching whatever little things I have learned along the way. So this is going to be 5 do's and don'ts for reading tarot for yourself, okay? So this is not about reading tarot for others, reading tarot for clients. I do really intend this to be for the beginner, but if you guys are seasoned tarot readers, you can still watch it, see if there's anything in here that you weren't aware of, and if you guys learned something along the way, I would love for you to drop me a comment and let me know how it resonated for you, or if you've got a tip or trick yourself that I did not mention, okay? That would be super helpful for all of our beginners who are going to be watching this in the future, who can check the comment box and just look at all the things that everyone has shared, okay? So I do have here joining me my friend Enigma. Enigma's my trusty, most bonded deck. I do have quite a lot of decks. If you guys have been following me for a while, you know I've got somewhere around like 25 decks right now. So I want to say it's super, super important to find the ones that you are bonded with the most, the ones that you have the closest connection to, right? If you only have one tarot deck, I would highly recommend learning for yourself, keeping that tarot deck sacred before you start reading for others and gunking up the energy, right? But if you have tons and tons of tarot decks while you are learning, you are so lucky, so blessed to have tons of tarot decks. Definitely find the ones that work the best for you and read with those for yourself and not for anyone else, right? I think that is super important because I do have quite a few decks that are very closely bonded with me that don't want to read for others, and I do have those kind of put away for myself, and I will, as I can, find special little boxes for them or something. So I do keep my tarot decks in little tarot bags with selenite sticks, right? And I'm just gonna go ahead and get into my list. I did put together a list for you guys to keep this a little bit cleaner, because y'all already know once I start talking, I'm a ramble forever. So we're gonna start with the do's, okay? Here are 5 do's for you guys. Again, this is for beginners, but if you guys are seasoned, let me know what you think, okay? So the first one is, do get to know your deck. That's why I brought Enigma over here, is to show you guys it's very possible to super closely bond with a deck that doesn't want to read for anyone else and only for you. I think I only have about 3 decks that very specifically read for me and don't want to read for anyone else. Same thing, I have one very special oracle deck that does not read for anyone and just me. Very important when you are learning tarot to learn to trust your intuition first. I always say that. That is the first most important thing, right? So that you can learn to trust the voice of your guides as well as the voice of your tarot deck, okay? So I know that one might be a little weird to people who have not started tarot yet. Yes, you will get voices from your tarot decks. It is more of an intuitive voice knowing type of situation, right? So your tarot decks will tell you how they like to be shuffled. They will tell you if they are okay reading for others or not. Whenever I'm doing a reading for a client, I will kind of wave my hand over all of the tarot decks and ask who would like to volunteer for that reading. If I'm letting the client choose from the decks, I will also do the same thing, but pick a number of them out for the client, right? So it's very, very imperative that you learn to trust your tarot deck's voice. If you guys don't hear anything from your tarot decks, that's completely okay, right? You don't have to. Maybe you'll get there. I don't quite know how that works because I did hear my tarot decks pretty quickly, pretty early on. Most of them, it does take me a little while to bond with them closely enough to start hearing them. I would say probably well over a week or so of bonding, maybe even a month for some of them, where I am shuffling them every day, not doing readings with them, not reading for myself, not reading for others, not drawing, not doing anything, just shuffling them quite a few times a day, just talking to them, maybe sleeping with them, maybe carrying with them, whatever, doing things to bond with them for quite a while so that they get used to your energy and the energy of your space and everything that's around you before they feel comfortable enough to start like really talking to you and read for you, right? So that's super important. Again, I know people on both sides of the spectrum, people that hear their decks and people that don't. So again, don't feel bad if you've been bonding with your deck for like a year and you don't hear it. I did have a deck, very specifically my Vanessa Tarot, that I've had for over 2 years. Didn't start hearing her until recently. So it's completely okay and completely normal and valid if you don't hear your deck for a long time, okay? Don't worry about it too much. But definitely getting to know your deck is so important. Things like doing an interview spread will also help you learn who that deck is, how that deck reads, etc., etc. You guys already know I have a whole series on my channel about interviewing my tarot decks so that you guys can also get to see the process of interviewing them, as well as getting to know my decks specifically, like the way that I get to know them. But I don't recommend doing the interview spread right out of the box. I have seen a few people do that. I feel like it's just kind of a general not knowing any better, but I also feel like sometimes you do feel an immediate connection with your deck and you're immediately connected to it and you feel a great spark of energy and you really want to start talking to it. You really want to know who this deck is. I get it. I do. I personally don't want to stress my deck out right out of the box, so I do lots of cleansing, lots of bonding. I give it time to breathe and acclimate and get used to me and my energy and my space and everything before I start trying to do any readings with it. But I have had 2 decks that did immediately start throwing cards at me the second I took it out and started shuffling it. So I get it, I really do. I just personally don't like doing interview spreads with my cards until I've bonded with them for at least a couple of weeks. Like, I really want them to get used to me and I really want to get used to them, you know? So the next one I say is do practice shuffling. Super important. You guys already know I do have a video on my channel as well about shuffling. So if you are brand new to tarot, you don't quite know about shuffling, you don't know how to shuffle, or you're not too comfortable with shuffling, it's totally okay. I honestly just say fake it till you make it. Don't point out that you're uncomfortable with shuffling to people around you, because it's just going to point it out in their mind, right? If they just see that you're kind of fumbling around a little bit, but you don't point it out, then they're not really going to think anything of it. They're just going to think maybe you got a bad shuffle on that one or something. Trust me, you guys, it's not a big deal. If you are having trouble shuffling, that's why it's important to do it a lot on your own, in your own time. I always say, while you're watching TV, while you're not doing anything, don't channel that deck, right? Don't ask questions in your mind's eye. Don't do things expecting it to read for you when you're just shuffling, right? Just shuffle for the sake of shuffling. You can even say that in your mind, just shuffling, so that your deck knows you're not doing a reading, you're not trying to do a reading, you're not channeling it. If it does spit out cards for you, whenever it does that for me when I'm just shuffling for practice, I just kind of look at it and go, oh, 2 of Cups, thank you, and I put it back. Or, oh, Hierophant, thank you, put it back. And I just keep shuffling, just shuffling, you know what I mean? So that your deck knows that there is no pressure in the situation. They don't have to give you a message. You are not expecting of a message, things like that. But shuffling is super important. It's kind of the staple of tarot, to be honest. Learning how to shuffle is super imperative. Learning how your decks want to be shuffled is super imperative. And the only way to get better is with practice. So even if you're not using your tarot deck, if you're using like a deck of regular playing cards to learn to shuffle, things like that, whatever you can do to practice shuffling is going to benefit you in the long haul. Getting better at shuffling and multiple types of shuffling is only going to benefit you. So if you're just sitting there all day shuffling, it's not really gonna be for nothing, right? You're only gonna help yourself out. So the next one I have is do lots of research always. So you can never learn too much about tarot. And I know that a lot of us in this day and age, we kind of learn a base amount of information and then kind of just roll with that, right? So the point of my channel was to teach you guys tarot and to show you that no matter how much I know about tarot, I'm still constantly learning. I'm still constantly seeking out other sources to learn more about how other people have perceived tarot, how people do tarot, how people read tarot, things like that. Constantly learning more about the card meanings, right? I just bought a book about how to interpret the tarot cards through love readings. So there's never, ever, ever any shortage of information about tarot. There's never too much that you can learn. Like, you're never going to know everything about tarot one day and just cap off and be the all-knowing source of tarot, because remember, the times are only going forward, right? In this dimension, time moves forward. So we're constantly changing, constantly growing. There are constantly going to be advancements in things like that. So that's the best thing you can do, is just keep going, just keep learning. Even if you feel you know a whole lot, it's not going to hurt you any to learn a little bit more, right? So even if I have, read through my whole Rider-Waite Ultimate Guide, I still read through it 2 or 3 times. I still keep learning through it. I'm still constantly rewriting those meanings or those keywords to help myself out. I'm still reading other books. I'm still watching videos constantly. Even, yes, I watch tarot reading videos, but I'm still constantly watching how to read the tarot in 30 minutes, or how to learn every card meaning in an hour, things like that. Anything that you can find that's going to help you with just a tiny bit more of information is never, ever, ever a bad thing, my friends. They might say something that you haven't heard yet that will click for you a little bit better than the things that you have heard. Even something 5 years down the line in your tarot journey might click for you a little better than something you have been trying to grasp for 5 years, right? So never stop learning, my friends. It is the best thing you can do for yourself to take the initiative and be proactive in your tarot journey. The next one I have is keep a record of your personal readings. I was going to bring my tarot journal over for this, and I completely forgot because I did another video previous to this one. But keep a journal. A lot of people will tell you that, and the reason for keeping a tarot journal for your personal readings is so that you can look back on them. If you are someone who would rather watch a video or listen back a voice memo, you can do that too. We have phones, right? So you can totally do that. You can keep videos like unlisted, private on YouTube if you want to do them for yourself and watch them back. If you want to just keep them on your computer, if you have the space to do so and watch them back. If you have a little tape recorder, right? If you're not working with anything high tech, you've got a tape recorder, you can do that. Or you can keep a good old journal, because a journal will help you reflect on the things that you have gotten in readings before. That way, 2 weeks from now, if you're like, I think I heard something about that in a reading that I did for myself, you can look back on it and be like, damn, I totally did see that in a reading before, and I thought it meant this, and now I realize it means this, right? Constantly transforming. Those readings are constantly transforming. I've noticed that for me as well. So I do keep a journal for myself. I do also kind of read for myself often. So I really only, like, if I'm dedicating a big day to doing a reading for myself with a full tarot spread and an oracle deck and things like that, I will record those. But for the random little ones that I just take while I'm shuffling or something like that, I don't really record those, but they do help a whole lot for you to look back on them and see how you've transformed in that journey. You can also see how you interpreted the spread when you first did it, as opposed to how you interpret it now. Things like that. It's only going to help you to have that log in any form that you keep it, okay? So the last one I'm going to say for the do's for your own personal readings, friends, is treat your own readings how you would treat a client's readings. So clearly I worded that for more advanced readers, but what I mean by that is maintain the level of professionalism that you would maintain in a reading you are doing for someone else. So clearly, if you are a beginner and you have not started reading for people and you're just getting used to yourself as a reader, watch my previous video. I will link it below, and it is about how to get into the psychic hat, right? I do explain a lot of how to create that safe space for yourself in a reading, how to create a sense of professionalism in a reading, and how to wear the psychic hat. And I really, really, really highly recommend that one if you are just starting off with tarot and you don't quite know how to create a safe space for yourself, if you don't know what level of professionalism you're going for, if you don't quite know yourself as a reader, I really highly recommend watching that one, okay? It's going to help you a whole lot. So let's go ahead and get into the don'ts, all right? The next one is This is very important, okay? And a lot of people don't realize this, but don't read for yourself when you are emotional, okay? And what I'm gonna say about that first, before I get off into that tangent, is things on your path may be hidden from you for a reason. Because you are meant to learn a certain reason in a karmic cycle, right? Or meant to learn a certain lesson in a karmic cycle. And if you have a psychic tool, divination tool such as tarot, sometimes people often think, I can see the future and avoid that situation. That's not how that works, especially when reading for yourself, because your guides will often hide things from you for a reason. So I tell people often, don't read for yourself super seriously. Like, don't take it as serious as a real professional reading, like something you would get from somebody else, because you're not going to look at your own reading in an unbiased light. You are not going to look at it from an omniscient point of view, no matter how much you try. Okay, it's extremely difficult to do when reading for yourself. We often have things like emotion in the way, as well as stressors when reading for ourselves, and whatever comes out, you may find yourself second guessing. You may find yourself saying, that's not right, and shuffling again. You may find yourself getting frustrated with the message that continues to come out. So it is important, friends, that you do not read for yourself when you are emotional. Do not read for yourself when you are stressed out. Do not read for yourself when you have a lot on your mind. Again, I highly recommend the video that I have in the description box for you guys about how to create a safe space for reading tarot, because that's going to help you learn how to clear your mind, how to clear your intuition, how to create that space for yourself to take that reading seriously when you're doing it for yourself, because it's very easy to take it casually and light when it's you reading for yourself, and you may find yourself in such a position of comfortability with your deck that you may even argue with it or second guess it or say that's not right and get mad at it as if it is like a friend, right? A best friend. Sometimes we do that with our best friends when we butt heads. Even though they're our best friends and we love them, we might still argue with them, right? So that is a point that I have on here. I think that's the third one. Don't fight with your deck. Don't fight with your deck, okay, friends, please? Because all of that emotion, all of that energy, you are essentially putting into the deck. And if you are giving that to your deck when it's trying to give you guidance, it's going to give you that right back. It's going to spit it back at you one day, and you're going to be real mad about it when you can't get a clear picture from your deck. So, the second don't I have on here, before I start, I'm getting ahead of myself. The second one that I have on here is don't treat your readings lightly. So again, this is going into keep that level of professionalism when you are reading for yourself. If you are reading for yourself, try to do just one big reading, maybe a week, maybe every 2 weeks, maybe once a month, on the full moon, on the new moon, something like that. Make it a ritual for yourself to do a big reading for yourself. But I have noticed the more you read for yourself, the more you want to read for yourself, right? So don't get stuck in that cycle of, well, it's just one extra reading, something like that. You're stressing yourself out. You're stressing your deck out, okay? Trust me on this. The more chaotic energy you put into your deck, the more chaotic energy your deck is going to give you. And then you will get untrustworthy readings, my friends. That's totally, totally possible. And everyone who is a seasoned tarot reader will tell you often not to read for yourself for that reason, okay? I do not like reading for myself for that reason. I will go to friends. I will go to other readers. If it's something big that I have a lot of emotion invested into, something that I can't quite see clearly, I know there is a reason I can't quite see it clearly. And no matter how many times you shuffle that deck and cleanse that deck and reshuffle and cleanse it and keep asking, you're not going to get a clear picture because you're not meant to, right? Especially with family members. People will try to read for family members or people that are very close to them, and same thing, they'll get that block. They realize they can't quite hear their guidance around that situation. That's for the same reason, because if that person is on your path and their decision on something directly affects your path, you're not going to be able to get a clear picture on that because you're the one reading for it. It's totally okay to turn people away and ask them to go to another reader because you're just too close to them. It's totally okay, friends. I've done it before. It stings a little bit. Your friend might feel a little betrayed, a little backstabbed at the moment, and then when they go to another reader, they'll be fine. Trust me, it's only in your best interest. So the next one that I have here is don't abandon reflection. And what I mean by that, if you're keeping your tarot journal, you're already kind of en route to doing your reflection, right? If you are reading for yourself casually, you may forget that reflection, right? Again, it's that level of comfortability with your deck where you might be so comfortable with your deck, you get the message and you're just kind of like, Hierophant, teacher, got it. Two of Cups, you know, got it. Lovers, duality, got it. And you're not listening to the message. You're not looking at the message. And I have found myself in that position quite a few times, and that's why I try not to do big readings for myself too often. I'll do it maybe once a month if I feel I need it. I really don't ever feel like I need it from my decks for that reason, but I do get smaller readings from my decks for that reason, because when you get a big spread and you're just staring at those cards and you're trying to interpret them, you may only be giving yourself the keywords. Your guides may very well be only giving yourself the keywords because there's something around it you're not supposed to see. There is a block there for a reason. So I do recommend keeping your journal or your video log or whatever for that reason. That way, if you can't quite see it at the moment, come back to it a couple days from now, a week from now. Trust me, that reading is still going to be timeless. That lesson is still going to be there when you come back to it. It's not like you've learned the lesson and you've overcome it in the last 3 days since you got that reading. Trust me, it's still going to be there, and the message that you need to hear from that spread is still going to be there when you come back to it, okay? And the last one I have on the don'ts is don't forget to cleanse. It is imperative, friends, when reading for yourself that you cleanse. And I know that I have said this a little bit in the past few things that I've said, but it's imperative that you cleanse, because you will get that level of comfortability with your deck that you feel like you don't need to cleanse it. You're like, I'm the only one that it's reading for right now. I don't need to cleanse it. It's still my energy. But you need to understand that day you might have been stressed out about the person that cut you off in traffic and you didn't realize that you were still harboring that when you did your reading. You might not realize that someone who came home affected your energy while you were doing that reading, what have you. So it is imperative that you constantly cleanse your deck. There are multiple ways of cleansing your deck. A new one that I have just learned from my aunt is to knock on your deck 3 times. And what I do when I do that is imagine in my mind's eye shaking off dust, shaking off grime, tar falling off of it, right? Whatever you can imagine falling off of it to cleanse it and wake it up and reinvigorate it is a really great thing. That's also why I keep a stick of selenite in each of my tarot bags, is so that it's constantly kind of cleansing itself and renewing itself. But I do at least once a month take my decks outside and do one big smoke cleanse over everybody. So that's sage and Palo Santo, right? I do a big smoke cleanse, and the only reason that I do it once a month is because I cannot smoke cleanse in my house. If I could, I would do it every single day. I have been able to kind of light the tip of Palo Santo and smoke cleanse a little tiny bit and get away with it without the smoke detectors going off. So I've been doing that before readings lately, where I'll put all of the decks like in front of me that I'm going to use, and I'll just kind of barely light the Palo Santo and do a quick cleansing. And then the same thing, I still knock on them, I still do whatever I can, but I do still go out of my way to do a big cleansing whenever I feel like it's that time of the month to cleanse the decks, right? So don't forget to cleanse your tools often, your crystals, your like your tarot cloth. If you're using a tarot cloth, don't forget to treat it with respect still. Wash it sometimes, you know. Maybe put some nice, pretty, smelly oils or herbs on it in that wash or something, you know, if you want to treat it nice. And treating your divination tools with respect is just as important as treating yourself as a reader with respect, okay? So you're only going to help yourself out. Again, if you haven't watched that video that I just did that I linked in the description, highly recommend it. I do talk about all of that in there, okay? So my biggest piece of advice here at the end, friends, is always treat your readings with professionalism like your client readings. Clearly, I have said that, But always take yourself seriously and wear the psychic hat. It's so important that you take yourself seriously when reading. Now, I don't mean be serious when reading, right? Clearly, our guides are hilarious sometimes. Clearly, our decks have sense of humors and they're hilarious sometimes. And laughing lightens your vibration, right? Laughing heightens your vibration. I did read something recently that said back in the day, there was a thing where you couldn't pray until you laughed. So people would tell jokes before they prayed so that they could heighten their vibration before they prayed, so that they could really get in touch with their guides, right? So I really think that one is super, super important to note. Yes, I say take yourself seriously, but what I mean by that is trust yourself as a reader. Trust that you are receiving the messages the way that you are meant to receive the messages. Trust your guides, trust your deck, trust your tools, okay? If you're not trusting them, if you're second guessing them, if you are doubting them, if you're arguing with them, you're not helping yourself as a reader, okay? If you're noticing that you have all of those emotional triggers to readings, don't read for yourself. As clear as that is, just don't read for yourself, just don't do it. And once you learn to calm that energy down and you learn to keep your emotions in a separate room while you're reading, then you can start learning and reading for yourself and really doing it. But having that level of professionalism, keeping your emotions outside while you do it is so important. I know we tell people that when I was a manager, like, leave your emotions at the door, right? It's not, you don't need to bring your emotions to work. It's kind of the same thing with reading. Leave your emotions at the door. You don't need it in your reading. You don't, because you are here to receive the guidance from your guides. You're here to do something, to reflect on something you need to do to better yourself, right? That's what the point of tarot readings are, is to do something to better yourself, to help you get through a karmic cycle, to help you change up this path in your Akashic records, right? Whatever that may be, you need to understand that having those third dimensional emotional reactions to your readings is not going to help you do that, okay? It's super important. You guys need to act adult. As annoying as that probably sounds, you need to be an adult when you're reading. You need to treat yourself seriously. You need to treat your guides seriously. You need to treat your tools seriously, because although you can have fun with it, it doesn't benefit you any to act like a child and throw a fit about a reading that you get, okay? So the next thing that I have to say is, if you are still learning or brand new to tarot, do things to learn to trust your intuition. These are things that you can do that are exercises. I have seen quite a few groups do this, where they'll hide things in a cup, ask you which cup the item is in, and bonus points if you can guess the item, right? Things like that will help you trust your intuition. Also, things like using a pendulum might help you learn to trust your intuition. If you feel like you have an answer to something and you're not quite sure about it, you can ask your pendulum if that's the right answer, or what the right answer is, or what have you. I would just say look up things to heighten your intuition. Even if you are into magic, doing things like spells, keeping crystals around, constantly calling on your guides, and meditating is the best thing you can do. I know nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear about meditating, but meditating is the best thing that you can do for your intuition, to learn to connect with your guides, to learn to trust yourself, to learn to trust your higher self, to learn to trust your deities, etc. So read with friends that you can trust to tell you the truth about their readings and honest reflection. Notice I said read with friends and not for friends, because if you guys are all learning together, or if they're learning and you're helping them, you have to understand that honest reflection is the best thing you can do for them. If there's something they think that they are set in knowing that it resonates for you, and you're like, that doesn't resonate at all, you need to be honest with that. Same thing, vice versa. You need to tell them they have to be completely honest with you about that. They can't be hiding things from you, because that's only going to cause friction for you as a reader, because you feel like you're trusting your intuition, and then there is friction on the other side of the reading. So definitely friends that you trust to be honest with you will help you a whole lot. Continue to get readings from other readers for your own guidance while you learn to trust your intuition and your guides with personal readings. I have said that in this video. Super important. If there's something you feel you are just dying to hear, you really need the guidance on, right? You cannot sleep without getting this guidance or something. Go to a professional reader, friends. Just pay somebody for it, even if you really don't want to, right? I know a lot of people will read for themselves for that reason because they're like, I don't want to pay a reader. I can do it. Yes and no. You can and you can't. If you're not meant to learn about it from behind your eyes, right? Your guides aren't going to tell you the truth, but another reader might be able to see around something that you can't. So it's super important you still keep getting readings from other people, even if you feel like you've been reading for so many years and you can do it yourself. Yes and no. So you probably... This is very important, friends, for beginners. You probably shouldn't be advertising reading for clients without at least a year of experience and research under your belt. And the reason that I added that in here is because we've opened our group to readers, right? You can read once a week, and if you do a certain number of free readings, you can charge for readings after that. And you have to be approved as a reader. We do get tons of really experienced, really good readers that we approve, right? Clearly. And there are so many young readers. And I'm not saying that age is equal to experience, right? Clearly it's not. You could have been doing tarot your whole life. Maybe your mom was super into tarot and raised you in tarot, and you have been doing tarot for 10 years and you're only 20 years old, right? Something like that. I'm not saying that age means experience, friends. I mean, at least a year's worth of you researching tarot and learning tarot and reading tarot for yourself and for others, learning to trust your intuition long before you start reading, because that is so important. We get people who haven't even been reading for a year and they want to start charging for readings just because, you know, TikTok glamorized the tarot. So please, 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 friends, learn to trust yourself in your readings, learn to trust your intuition, learn to trust your guides, learn to give efficient and correct readings, right? When I first started doing readings, I was doing intuitive readings and lives, and they felt great. They felt great, and people would give me comments about them. But when I go back and I look at how wrong I was on the meanings of those cards or what my guides were trying to tell me, it's kind of ridiculous. So you need to understand that that happens, especially when you're learning. You think, I learned the majors, I'm fine, I can go from here. You need to keep learning, friends. You need to keep learning. You can never learn enough, okay? Please, please, please don't charge people for readings if you haven't had experience for at least a year or two. Honestly, I would personally say 2, but if you've been going real hard in the research and the practice for a full year every single day, clearly you might know what you're doing, what you're talking about. But just don't be like, I picked up a tarot deck last week, you want me to give you a reading $40? It doesn't work that way. You gotta earn your way there, kid. You gotta go through you gotta go through your initiation, right? You gotta get hazed into the whole reading situation. You gotta earn your place there. Okay, so have patience with yourself when learning tarot, my friends. Have patience with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be loving and nurturing like a good mother would to yourself. Please understand, tarot is hard work. It's a lot of learning. It takes a long time. And yes, 78 card meanings, even double 78 card meanings, is hard to do. Okay, so we will talk about in a future date learning tarot versus oracle for your first deck. I didn't realize how lengthy this video was getting. So if you guys made it to the end, please, please, please give me a big thumbs up. That really helps me out so much with the YouTube algorithm. If you guys made it to the end and you didn't like my video, that's cool. Thumbs down. You don't have to like my video. You still watched it. And say whatever you want in the comments, because y'all do anyway. And I really, really hope that you have a beautiful, wonderful day wherever you are when this video reaches you, my friends. And I can't wait to see you in the next one. Namaste.